I thought it was pretty clear that I didn't want to see you. And I thought we agreed to avoid each other.
Trust me, I want to see you way less than you want to see me.
High school senior Maggie, who was well liked by her peers, talks about her intention to transfer to LA in order to pursue her acting career. She did not disclose that she was dating Julianne, also known as Jules, even though everyone at the school knew she was gay. Even though Jules was unpopular and so different from Maggie, they had a connection.
I miss you so much.
Where's Waldo? Really?
What? I thought we were only applying to colleges out west.
Jules discovered on New Year's Eve that Maggie was more concerned about how she would appear to her classmates than she was about confessing to dating Jules.
I knew you were lying. You were never gonna tell anyone.
Please, you barely even came to this party.
A furious Jules disclosed that she had applied to a culinary school and was about to transfer to New York. Assuming she and Jules were going to Los Angeles together, Maggie was furious. Maggie and Jules ended their relationship that night because Jules felt like Maggie didn't want to include her in her close friends.
You care so much about what other people think of you.
Well, you care so little, and that's why you look like that.
They ended their relationship badly on New Year's Eve. A decade later, Maggie had made a name for herself as an actress in LA, becoming a local favorite after her commercial took off. She returned home for Christmas for the first time in 10 years, and her family found out that she had just split with her girlfriend Vivienne right before the trip.
What's that, like 8 times now? Ouch. I am so glad I came home this year.
Maggie kept it to herself that she was totally broke and had no projects lined up. She returned to town to cut costs and maybe pick up a part-time gig to make some extra cash. Meanwhile, Jules had hit big as a chef, and her restaurant in New York was thriving. She had written a best-selling cookbook, and the whole town took pride in her success. Just like every year, she returned home to celebrate Christmas with her mom. Maggie and Jules ran into each other at a local event, and it was clear they hadn't gotten over the rough breakup from a decade ago.
Recognize her from the commercial of
Anyone less deserving of this award than Maggie Pierce.
Maggie was still fuming about Jules calling her superficial, while Jules was furious that Maggie never had the guts to date her back in the day. They were back in their hometown and kept bumping into each other all the time. So it was impossible to dodge a meet-up, and every time they did, it turned into a heated argument about their breakup. Jules' best friend Lola, the town's gossip expert, was doing her best to mediate between them. Her efforts to get them to communicate didn't work out. Just like their families and the entire town, even Lola had no clue that they had been a couple for 2 years back in high school. One night, Jules had a dream where she saw herself and Maggie sharing a kiss, but she brushed it off as soon as she woke up. Maggie was on the hunt for a low-key job, and the only spot in town that had openings was Jules' diner. At first, Jules wasn't too thrilled about bringing on her ex, but Maggie was really in need of the job, claiming she needed it for some research for a role she was working on. Maggie and Jules didn't hit it off at first, but over time they started to relax and enjoy each other's company. Jules found herself feeling glad that Maggie was around, and they managed to revive their friendship. One evening at the diner, Maggie and Jules found themselves accidentally locked in the inventory room. Jules attempted to call her mom for help, but the poor mobile reception, she wasn't sure if her mom even got the message. Realizing they might be there for a while, they started to reminisce about their dating days. As they got to talk about what led to their breakup, both got overwhelmed and emotional and kissed each other. This kiss was a long time coming, as their breakup was sudden and neither got proper closure. Their kiss was interrupted when Jules' mother got them out from the room they were stuck in. They both agreed to catch a movie at a nearby theater and said their goodbyes for the evening. While Maggie was awaiting, Jules had to run to the hospital because her mom had a minor heart attack. Maggie figured Jules had ditched her since she never got a heads up. Ever since moving back home, Maggie had been bombarded with calls from her ex, Vivienne. She chose to ignore every single one of Vivienne's calls and messages because she was still upset with what Jules has done. On the night Jules didn't show up for the movie, she was taken aback to see Vivienne in her room saying sorry for how she had ended things so suddenly. Vivienne, the lead singer of a well-known band, mentioned that her time with Maggie was the longest relationship she'd ever had. Maggie, feeling a bit emotionally exposed, decided to go along with Vivienne's suggestion, and they rekindled their relationship that very night. Vivienne then invited Maggie to hit the road with the band for a year-long tour, and Maggie was all in. Maggie was furious that she found out about Jules' mom's situation from Lola instead of Jules herself. This reignited the pain they felt before. On top of that, Jules was feeling jealous about Maggie getting back together with her ex, so she attempted to crash a date between Maggie and Vivienne. Jules was just as stubborn as Maggie and refused to admit she was wrong. Maggie thought that Jules was secretly trying to ruin any chance for their relationship to grow. So Maggie told Jules about her plan to join Vivienne's band for their world tour. On Christmas morning, Jules and her mom got an invitation from Maggie's family. It was a bit strange since Christmas is usually a time for just family gatherings. We think it might have been a tradition to invite them, but it could also be the first time Jules and her mom were included. Jules and Maggie headed to Maggie's room because she had something important to discuss. Jules opened up to Maggie about her feelings and pleaded with her not to go on the world tour with Vivienne. She revealed that she had always had feelings for Maggie, and ever since they broke up, none of her other relationships seemed to work out. Jules was likely afraid of losing Maggie for good, which is why she decided to be truthful about how she felt. She wanted to ensure that Maggie listened to her instead of them having another fight that could ruin their relationship like before. Maggie felt really confused after hearing someone declare their love for her. She didn't know what to do next. On top of that, Vivienne had come back into her life, saying she loved Maggie too. This made Maggie think hard about which path to take, since her choice would change everything for her future. Just a little while later, Vivienne asked Maggie to marry her right in front of her family. Maggie was completely shocked because she never expected something like that to happen so suddenly. Jules felt a bit frozen too since Vivienne had made such a big move, and she knew it could be really tempting for Maggie. Instead of saying anything, it was Maggie's grandmother who spoke up, saying that Maggie and Jules were obviously meant to be together. The grandmother was trying to say that Maggie and Jules had reunited after 10 years for a special purpose. It was like the universe was getting them to be together, and she wanted Maggie to make the best choice for herself, instead of getting swayed by grand romantic gestures just like the one Vivienne did just 3 months into their relationship. It was kind of strange that Maggie and Jules' family weren't surprised at all when they found out that the girls had dated in high school. Vivienne left Maggie's house feeling really embarrassed. She was probably heading back to LA because she understood that Maggie might not have truly loved her. Meanwhile, Maggie ran after Vivienne and Jules was chasing after the girl she had told her feelings to. This was a typical moment in a romantic drama where everything was a mess, and the person caught in the middle had to decide what to do. In this story, it was Maggie. Deep down, she was someone who always wanted to make others happy and didn't want to hurt Vivienne, even though she secretly realized that she loved Jules. As the three face off, Jules discovers that Maggie had never brought her up to Vivienne. Vivienne, equally taken aback, realizes that Maggie had kept a painful breakup history hidden from her. Both women are furious with Maggie for her dishonesty and insecurity. Maggie was finally ready to say sorry, but it was unclear who she had decided to be with. It seemed like she had made her choice, but she wanted to break things off with the other person respectfully. Maggie arrived just moments before midnight. It felt a bit predictable, but because the love between Maggie and Jules was real, this storyline of the confused lover finding clarity really worked. This film wrapped up happily. Maggie told everyone how much she loved Jules in front of their family and friends. She even mentioned an old note she had written for him, which made her confession even more special. They shared a kiss right as the clock hit 12. Want more queer content? Then please subscribe and hit the notification bell.